All right. Hey, my name is Dr. Cheryl Meyer, and I'm a psychologist, and I help people navigate through their spiritual awakening. And I'm on the island of Patmos, and I ought to start calling these the Patmos Chronicles because it's just been amazing. I just, you feel so. It's like if you can understand collective consciousness or consciousness, if you're on an island where someone went up to the heavenly realms and got visions, it's like there's a vibe here where that's possible. It's kind of like, if you're in Athens and you are at old Olympic stadiums and you just know what's possible because the Olympics happened there. People broke records and did amazing feats. But I'm not talking about those kinds of visions right now. I remember Elliot talking somewhere about, I think someone was asking him next to me, they were saying, or maybe it was in an article. One time I gave him the LA Weekly and his face was on the cover of it. But those were the days, man. That was sweet. Um, but he said something like, I don't want to cannibalize a bar because people would ask him, where do you write your songs? And he just would sit sometimes in a bar and he would say, I would drink really slowly. I love him. I love him. But anyway, so he just would get ideas and downloads about songs, but he didn't want to like go purposefully, okay, I'm going to go to this bar and I'm going to write all my songs, and like, okay, what is this conversation going to be about? So that quote of his came to my mind because I just had one of the most amazing conversations I've ever had in my life. And I don't want to cannibalize it. You know what I mean? It's like I want to hold that space sacred and honor the space that I just shared with this guy. It was just so incredible. I don't want to forget what we talked about. So I was like, oh, I'll just video, and if if it's too personal or something, I won't put it up. You guys know. I just say what's on my heart, what's in my soul. I want everyone to gain by like the schooling that I've had and the wisdom that comes to me because I've sought it out my whole life and I value it. And it's given me so much freedom and clarity and love. It's let so much love pass through me. But anyway, so healing. And this guy's name means healing. And I didn't even know how I ended up in town in Patmos tonight. Our class is over, so I just decided to go on a walk. But I didn't know what I was going into town for. I just had this idea, I'll go and get a book. And it's like I don't even have room in my luggage for a book, but that's just what was on my mind. And that's where I met this guy at the bookstore. And he remembered me from last year, from a year ago. And it's so strange. But I just want to bring up some of the parts of the conversation that are good for all of us. As he told me this Greek word called Nepsis, and which means watchfulness. And I'd heard of it before in these very thick Orthodox saint books that I have. And the way he described it was so fresh, so alive and aware. It's kind of like, it's just not an old, worn down thought. It's just what it is just being alert in every moment. It's just like being mindful, being in the now, being deeply present at all times. So you don't get hooked into whatever drama is going on around you, whatever drama is going on in you. This like, oh, I'm wearing this Gucci, blah, 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 or whatever, and I'm not making fun if you are, wear whatever you want. I don't care. But Oh, look, I have this fake thing from Turkey. I usually don't get fake things because I don't like anything fake, but they hadn't been selling. I don't know if it's fake. Probably. They hadn't been selling anything for a year at this place, and I felt bad for them, and I wanted a pink scarf. But anyway, um, when you're aware, you're just not caught up in that. Your identity does not come from that, from external things. Wow. I had another conversation with a man, an older gentleman today, that was talking about the importance of introspection every night, and how when you introspect at the end of the night without judging yourself, you say, what did I say or do today that I ought not to have, or what did I say or not do that I ought to have today, you know, and being in alignment with divine love. It helps you become more aware of letting your soul run your life instead of your egotism. Because your egotism is so small compared to your soul and your soul's calling here and your soul's journey. This is what this man was talking to me about today at the bookstore. Like, I can't even believe that I met this person. Like, but he was talking about watchfulness, and Plato is how they say Plato. And we were talking about the ideals, the higher ideals, but it wasn't just a philosophical conversation at all. It wasn't too heady. And it was funny because he's like, this is who I really recommend you to read. And I'm like, oh, who? Tell me. I was about to write it down. He's like, this man called Clive Staples Lewis. I'm like, C.S. Lewis. And I'm like, I have a whole bookshelf in my garage with all of his books. Like, I have a whole shelf dedicated to C.S. Lewis. He's like, one of the people that my college professors, when I was 17, I went to college a year early. And my college professor taught a C.S. Lewis class, and he was saying how, he was told, instead of being so broad and studying so many different people, pick one author and go really deep with that author. So I picked C.S. Lewis as well. And so, this guy was talking to me about how C.S. Lewis, there's a book called Mere Christianity, and there's one called Abolition of Man. Abolition of Man is really good as well. It's really deep, but it's a thin book. It's only 80 pages or so, but how that affected this guy. I won't say his personal stuff, but anyway, so we were talking about Platonic ideals, like of Plato, of, C.S. Lewis calls this the shadowlands. And so there's the real, the heavenly objects, and the ones here are like a copy of what's up in heaven. I could talk a long time about that. I won't go into that. But back to, we were talking about respecting all the different religions that are here, and about longing. You have this longing for the divine, and that you have a longing for the divine means that there is one. Like, that longing can tell you about that there is a being that satisfies that longing. Otherwise, why would we have that longing? That you have a longing for food means your body craves that, and then you go and find food. If we have a longing to worship and for the divine, and that's part of the evidence. Not like you need evidence, but the logic that calls you to understand that we come from the divine, we are of that nature. and we long. I just recorded a whole 15-minute video and I saw it, and then now it's gone. I was saying I had to call this the Patmos Chronicles because I'm on the island of Patmos, but the most incredible thing happened tonight. I had the most healing and amazing conversations with this guy who remembered me from a year ago. I met him at this bookstore just randomly. I decided to leave tonight and walk down into town, and I just had this inclination to get a book. And it's so weird because I'm always teaching how to follow your intuition, but it's just I couldn't believe this happened. A guy who doesn't have social media, which is a miracle, who was teaching me about this Greek word, Nepsis, which means presence and deep awareness, watchfulness, keeping a watch that you're always in this deep mindfulness state, aware. And I was saying in the video that just got deleted somehow that, Elliot used to say, my friend Elliot, the musician, Smith, he would say yeah, people would ask him, where do you write your songs? And he said, sometimes at the bar. And I remember this one bar, Maxwell's in New York, that we were at. But he was saying, he doesn't want to cannibalize the bar. He doesn't want to make it so that every conversation that he had with people, that might be in a song or whatever. And so same goes here. I don't want to I don't want to say anything. I hold things sacred, but I just want to record this moment because it was so profoundly healing to me. And I think it can be healing to you. So the concept of nepsis, it's a Greek word, it means watchfulness. And I have it in these big, thick Greek Orthodox saint books. They talk about it a lot. Oh, and the Philokalia, that's free online. That's where that is. And so this guy was like, I really recommend, if you want to read someone, that you read this guy named Clive Staples Lewis. And I was like, C.S. Lewis, really? Because I'm like, I have got a whole bookshelf in my garage, a whole bookshelf. I'm not kidding, a whole IKEA bookshelf full of only C.S. Lewis books. And I took his class 5 times in college, and I went to his house and helped restore it in Oxford. So it's he's recommending, and I have this series on my YouTube channel on finding your intuition with Lucy from Narnia, which is C.S. Lewis's books. But yeah, this guy, this Greek-speaking guy, is recommending Mr. Lewis. It's so beautiful. I mean, he asked at the end, can I shake your hand, And it's just the sweetest thing. And we were talking about Plato and the idea of, C.S. Lewis talked about, this is the shadowlands. There are the real things, and this is the shadow of the real things, like the Matrix. And Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, how Tolkien doesn't like allegory, and how Tolkien wasn't talking about the war in the Lord of the Rings. He definitely wasn't. And one of the most healing things, right, that happened was he was asking, what is good and bad? Is there something truly bad? Because we were talking about respecting all different religions and what you can get from them, not get from them, but what you learn from them. And I was just in the moment, like I wasn't holding myself back at all. I wasn't just saying like, well, yeah, there's such thing as bad. And I'm like, like, I'm like, there was some guy that was talking to me, and all of a sudden he like walked out of my life and didn't explain anything and broke my heart. I'm like, my heart was broken, like really broken. You guys know this. I'm like, that's bad. If we're going to call anything bad in the world, that was bad, not to get in your egotism. We talked about not getting in your egotism, and letting that part of you die. And, but he said, that was dishonest. That's what that was. And I was like, oh. And I compared it to like if you were a little kid and you got hit or something by one of your parents, and you like didn't know what to call that because you thought maybe everyone gets this or whatever. You don't have words to describe how you felt. It's just kind of like that. It's like, oh, until another guy gave me a word for that, for what had happened to me, I just I never put it really in that category, but that's correct. And that was so healing to hear another guy tell me that's dishonest, and of course, you guys know I learned so much and I've healed so much, and it brought up all the ways I had been ghosting myself, and I had been not treating myself with more love and compassion and worth, I guess. So it healed a bunch of stuff, and there's no kidding on that, for sure it did. But, it's like I've said before, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. And I was saying in the other video that got deleted is that because my phone storage was all messed up for some reason, because the cloud's not working, but was that I've heard from women who are like, yeah, I ghost. I'm like, what? Like, at least just say, I'm not interested in talking to you, and this is where, the two ships in the night go different directions. But I mean, that's people they just met on one date. That's not even, I don't know what that is. That's just, okay, we have different interests, But anyway, so strange. Like, I wasn't even gonna leave my room. My class is over, and I just decided to go on a walk down into town. It's like and do my meditation on the way. It's like a 45-minute walk when you're walking. I ran there the other day. It was easy, but I didn't have my tennis shoes on, so it's a long walk. And like, this can happen. This guy's name means healing, and that's what just happened. It's such a healing. We're talking about the etymology of languages and how you can see, the Italian influence and the French influence and the American influence even on the Greek language, how the Greek language has changed from ancient language to what it is now, how it's been influenced. You can just see it over the years, what words come in. And what was that? Oh, the fly. There's a fly, I think. This is so weird. So this guy remembered me from a year ago. Trying to think if there's anything else that's good for all of us. I already put it in the first video that's not here anymore. But anyway. Oh, I think I was just saying, like, have faith and trust, you know. I just put on Twitter earlier, like, this video from Latoya that was talking about don't settle. And I just put don't settle, and then I put a link to the video, you know. And then this happened. This guy just like raised my standard for what a man can become. And like I had like cried half my makeup off today because I had this really deep, sincere conversation with one of the women here. And I didn't even care what I looked like at all, because I don't. And I still don't. And oh, it was like that one time, my friend from Stockholm, we had the most beautiful day. And I got to talk about it in that video. It's like that. I gotta remember these. I gotta remember. There's so much, like, I've had so many bad experiences, and not as many as a lot of other people have had with men and with my own father and everything, that when a good guy comes around and like shows what a man can become, you know, and be like, it's just so endearing or encouraging, or it like brings faith back into humanity. I don't know. I guess I can let you guys know, if you're a woman, great. You can know that there are really sweet, sincere, thoughtful men out there, that there just are. And if you're a man, then like, hey, like, this is your calling to be this kind of man, you know. Be your best self, because it's healing to other women. It really is, when you are your highest and best self and you aspire to be courageous and do what is loving and be thoughtful. And Nepsis, we'll have to talk more about Nepsis sometime. It's like being aware in every moment of how to not get pulled into the drama of what's around you, you know, and what's in you, even all these different voices that call you to these different places. All right. Yeah. I wish you the best. Like, honestly, you being the best brings healing into this world. No pressure. Much love. I love you.